We're SlickCyberSystems. I'm Chris. This is Jim. We're going to go over some customer questions today. I have a few questions I think you might find interesting. We have, let's see, what is their name? I have David. And David says that they're running ongoing performance issues with their imaging systems for EHR. They're having lag and issues with imaging on those systems, particularly when rendering high-res scans from diagnostic rooms, where the machines are at for their imaging systems. They're an eye surgery center.
We've got a few of those. This is very simple. Because when we started to work for one, there were similar issues. First and foremost, you need to have good network switches, not garbage ones, good ones. You should have a solid file server that's fast. And then as these images are getting dumped out to that file server, which some are and some aren't, so I'll separate that in a minute. The ones that are obviously are being pulled from there. The ones that are not are getting pulled from specialized devices like like a Heidelberg machine, or they call them the OCT machines. Typically then they have multiple drives installed. They're fast enough, and you are actually seeing, if you go to an exam room, right, at that point you're viewing that image off of that machine. So whether it's the server or whether it's there, you may very well have either a network switch issue here, or the machines that you have doing the viewing, so your exam rooms, if you will, they may not be powerful enough. You may need more memory and some better video in there, because that will adversely affect those images. But I mean, those images aren't huge to begin with. Having seen a bazillion of them, in my career, it's not rocket science. You don't have to go to super workstations here. You just need to get a decent machine, doing the viewing.
So plan exodus of old gear if it can't be upgraded, maybe, and then
if you fix those couple of issues, you'll be on golden pond. It'll be okay.
All right. So, Dave, do you have any questions on that one? Reach out to us. We'll obviously send you some information too. Let's see what else we got here. Going through the list. We've done some co-working. I have one from a co-working space, but I think I'm going to skip past that one because we've talked about that a couple times recently.
Okay.
All right, we have one is Julian. Julian is a mobile apps development agency. He is a small, growing mobile dev agency. He's increasingly uncomfortable with how casual everybody in the office has been about the infrastructure security. He said he's got client codes, API tokens, and some other internal build information in shared drives. And he says, I know, right? Thing is, we need security, but not at the expense of the agility of the network.
Sure. Would make sense. That's just called proper IT, right?
Yeah. What's the first thing you'd tell him to do?
Run a proper file server with the appropriate security. Have your various folders. I mean, not everybody's working on the same job at the same time. They're working on unique things. And you can do this a whole pile of ways. You can do a manual check-in or check-in kind of thing. But I don't think that's what you're looking at here. I think just keeping them isolated in folders, giving people access to the folders they need access to at that time, and the rest of it, they don't.
You turn it off after it's done?
Yeah, I mean, just, it's not always practical, but if you're really concerned about that, I mean, that's probably the best way to handle that. If you're not as concerned, from that standpoint, as far as the API keys and all that, the special passwords, which API key technically is. I mean, as long as they're stored in that file folder, right, with that client's data, and it's on a network file server that only certain people can access, then I think that's safe. I mean, if you don't trust your employees, maybe you should start looking at other employees.
Yeah.
So I would say that because, again, for the agility of the organization, you need to be able to function, and be able to work on these various jobs.
And if only those users only have access to those projects they're allowed to, you automatically know who's in it.
Yeah, and you can also see from a true file server standpoint, you can see who wrote, the last stuff. So you know who did it, regardless if everybody had access to it. You know who wrote it, as long as they all have their own unique logins, IDs and logins, passwords. I don't see any issue with that at all. And obviously, maybe training your employees a little bit on that, or having your MSP train. If you don't have an MSP, you may want to consider getting one. So, we can help you tighten up that whole footprint. But I mean, this is a pretty simple fix overall. But there is a portion of this that's definitely training, for sure. And your user training.
We have one from Eric. Eric is a CPA, and he says he needs to. I like this one. He needs reinforcements before tax season. I think what he's saying is, we got this one. It might have been a little earlier in the year, and it just didn't get into the list of, hey, let's talk about it. But as obviously we're going to be ending the tax season at some point, this is good for anybody who is potentially going through this kind of a problem. So he's saying he wants to calm the storm before server slowdowns, missed backups, email chaos, and everything in tax season happens, because tech dramas bring him down, and he swears every year he wants to get ahead of it. So
then let's get ahead of it.
Yeah. So what do you recommend for someone who's a CPA and they have issues with server slowdowns, missed backups, and potential, like he's saying, email chaos?
You definitely need to call us. You've got to call us and get us in there. We'll evaluate. We'll take a look. You shouldn't be missing backups. If you're missing backups, then that tells me your backup software is inadequate. It's not doing the job. And it could be, if you're just going to cloud, it could be your internet service provider causing, those missed backups as well. But again, until I see what it is, if you're still running tapes in there and you're missing backups, I would immediately say, why the heck are you running tapes? Let's get this stuff, up to the cloud and secured. Look, there's a time and place for the cloud, and in my opinion, I think, from a backup standpoint, it's definitely one of them, and it pays dividends because, even from a DR scenario, right, your data is off-site and encrypted.
Yep.
But be that as it may, I would look at that. Your server may be inadequate at this point. That could be what's failing. So during a backup, now you're choking the whole thing's just choking down. It can't handle it. It could be your network switching or your firewall that could be doing this as well.
Yeah.
So, again, basic infrastructure things here that I think would solve that problem without an issue.
Get in touch with us or another MSP, get an evaluation of what's going on, so you kind of better know what the problem actually is.
You've got to build your highest pressure point scenario, and that's what you've got to build for, with a little bit of growth. Because again, tax season's your big one. You may have lulls, but you know darn well that's where your pain points are, and you need to deliver now. I get that. We get that. Now's the time to talk about it, and let's get all the pieces in place for you. You can stress test it and the like, and that's not a big deal. We have a bunch of CPA firms we do work for, and they had similar issues until we fixed their problems. So it's what we do.
I've got one from Nadia you might like.
All right, I'll do one more for the day. Why not?
Okay. Nadia's a recruiter, and she says recruiters plus BYOD equals security headaches.
Yeah.
she's got a growing team of remote recruiters. So, the model behind her business she doesn't really get into a lot of, but she says a lot of the recruiters use their own devices, laptops, tablets. I guess they're 1099 or strictly almost like a sales kind of organization where they
Okay.
hunter-gatherers, if you will.
Right.
To access client records, candidate databases. It worked when they were much smaller, but now they're getting bigger. She's worried that she has what is essentially a recipe for a major disaster.
And it would be.
Yeah.
Two scenarios for that, depending on how this fits. Scenario one, move to an M365 enterprise version of, and run SharePoint, and keep your documents, making assumptions that they're, like Word, Excel, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. That would definitely alleviate, because now you're giving that user, even if they're with you 6 months and then they decide to bail, you can reassign that license to somebody else. But that's going to give you a Teams infrastructure that you can communicate. Mm-hmm. It's going to give you, which by the way is part of SharePoint. Then you have SharePoint, and all the other goodies that kind of go with that. That gives you a central repository, if you will, for your company to be able to store. And then of course we have tools that we can back that up. And no, Microsoft does not back that up by default. They just store it. They have redundancy in there, but it's not backed up. So if something's trashed,
gone.
Sorry, it's gone. So you still need backups, no different than, if it was on-prem. That's scenario one. Scenario two is you run a file server internal, you run remote desktop services, and have these people do a remote desktop session into that server, and then they're actually running and performing the operations of the business from the server itself, from that remote desktop session. So if I heard the word database, which is why I kind of wanted to give both scenarios. So if you have specialty programs like Pro Series, Intuit's Pro Series, which CPAs tend to use more often than not, and there's a pile of other ones, obviously. Those files are, it's not really a database per se, but it sort of is. But at least then your data remains on the server, it remains organized and backed up, constantly. So quite honestly, that's probably the direction that I would go. It's a little bit more expensive than the Microsoft 365 thing, but my guess is that's what you're going to need, just because of those other, ancillary business programs that you need.
Okay. I think we answered it, but obviously, if these questions, we're going to send information to Nadia. That's her name, Nadia. If you still have questions, if someone else, if it's not answered, directly enough, shoot your scenario over to us, and we'll take a look at it and we'll discuss it, and maybe give you some ideas. And at minimum, you can call us and find out what's your best direction to go. Which
give how to reach us.
Oh, telephone number 570-215-8888. SlickCyberSystems.com online. We have text, chat, all kinds of crazy stuff on there to reach us.
You'll reach us.
Whatever works for you.
I think my brain's done for the day.
I think so too.
Have a great one, folks. Take care.
Bye.
If you find this content helpful, please like the video, subscribe, and share with your friends and your colleagues. Thank you.